Hello folks, in this video I'm going to show you how to model the Farnsworth Hut inspired by the Farnsworth house designed by Mies van der Rohe and built in 1951. It's going to look like this when I'm finished. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is start with model a column. So let me just use a rectangle tool and I will just click on the ground here, click and release, and this rectangle is going to be 1 2 comma 1 2 enter, which is a 1 foot by 1 foot. You could alternately type in 1 apostrophe comma 1 apostrophe for 1 foot, and I'm going to push pull this up by 14 feet because if you look at the south elevation, if you go from the ground and look at the dimensions on the left, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 10, that's the height of the ceiling off the ground, is 14 feet. So I'm going to click and release on this face here and then pull it up by 1 4 apostrophe enter, 14 feet. And of course I'm going to select all the geometry with the selection tool, triple click, right click, make group. You could alternately drag a box around it to select all the geometry, then right click, make group. But it's important that you group the column and group everything as you go. Alright, so according to the drawing, there is a 10-foot space between each of the columns going in this direction. So I will use a guideline and I will use the tape measure tool, of course, to click on this edge, not the end points, but the edge, anywhere in the middle, and generate a guideline 1 0 apostrophe enter, 10 feet over. And then I'll use the move tool with the copy option, hit the control key to copy this column, and I'll copy from this lower rear corner here, from here in the red direction until it hits the guideline. Okay, since the guideline is 10 feet away, and I can verify that with the tape measure. It's a good idea to verify things. If I click on this point and hover over this point, it tells me it's 10 feet. Alright, and then the other column over here is also 10 feet, so I will use the move tool with the copy option, the control key, and this time I'll just copy from this point on this column to the same point on this column, and that'll copy it 10 feet over. Alright, so I can verify that. So it's important, if you're not sure, to verify it. Okay, now the other row of columns is, according to the drawing, is, if you look at the floor plan, 7 feet plus 7 feet is 14 feet. So I'll generate a guideline in this direction, 1 4 apostrophe enter, 14 feet. And then I'll select with the selection tool, spacebar is a shortcut. Hold the shift key down and click on this column and this column. Now all three columns are selected. And now I'll just simply copy these columns using the move tool and hit the control key. And I'll copy from this corner here until in the green direction until it hits the guideline right there. Okay, so there's the columns. And I'll click over here in the eyeglasses, the display panel, delete all guides. Okay, now the roof and the floor are identical. They're identical slabs, same thickness, same dimensions. So I'll start with the roof, and I'm going to use a kind of, the roof sits between the columns, so I'll just draw a rectangle from this corner to this corner right here. Okay, and I'll just push pull that down by 1 2 enter, 12 inches or 1 foot, because that's what the south elevation says. And since the roof is identical to the floor, and the floor goes to this 4 feet to this side of the column and 4 feet to this side of the column, I'll just simply push pull this face 48 enter, or 4 apostrophe enter for 4 feet or 48 inches, and the same thing with here. So 4 apostrophe enter or 48 enter, that's 4 feet. And of course I'll use my selection tool, spacebar is the shortcut, triple click, right click, make group. Okay, so there's the roof. The floor is identical, the identical slabs. And according to the south elevation drawing, the floor is 10 feet below the roof, the ceiling. It's a 10-foot ceiling height. So I will create a guideline from this underside of the roof along the inside of the column, 10 feet down, 10 apostrophe enter in the blue axis. Alright, and I'll just simply copy the roof with the move tool and the copy option. So that's a control key. See a little plus symbol appear next to the icon here, the cursor, and I'll just click here at this point right here between the column and the roof, click and release, and then I'll go to the intersection right here, click and release. Alright, so now there's the floor. Okay, let me just select this, drag a box, and I'll just move it further away from the other one. Alright, I'll get rid of this guideline. Actually, I'll just keep that guideline because I'll use this guideline for the landing. So the landing, according to the floor plan, is 7 feet by 7 feet. So I'll just use the tape measure tool and make some guidelines. This guideline will help here. It's already there. So I'll just draw a guideline, 7 apostrophe enter, and then 7 apostrophe enter from this edge, and that gives me some intersecting points of intersection here, and I can just use the rectangle tool and click and release here and stretch a rectangle to there. Alright, and the landing is 1 foot thick according to the south elevation. So I'll pull this down by 1, 2, enter, 12 inches. Now I'll group it, so I'll use the selection tool, triple click, selecting all the geometry, right click, make group. And the landing is 1 foot down below the top of the floor here, according to the south elevation. So I will move it down now. And I'll move it from this corner here to this corner here. Since the floor is 1 foot, that'll help me. I can use that to move it down 1 foot. Alright, let me clean this up. I'll just click on delete all guides to delete the guidelines. Alright, so the step, there's a 7 foot by 3 foot step. So there's a number of ways you can do that. I'm just going to use the rectangle tool and click right here, click and release, and then move my rectangle tool in this direction, and I will type 7 apostrophe comma 3 apostrophe because I want the other corner to be 7 foot in the X and 3 foot in the Y. And now I'll just push that down, push pull tool, 1, 2, enter, because it's 1 foot thick. And now I'll select all the geometry, triple click, right click, make group. Alright, so the other thing, if you look at the floor plan, there's a hidden line in the center here, and that it indicates a hidden object, which in this case turns out to be a column that supports the landing. Alright, so it goes from the underside of the landing to the ground. And so what I'll do is I'll orbit, and so I can see the bottom of the landing. And it's a 12 by 12, 12 inch by 12 inch column, and it's 12 inches high. So I'll just draw a rectangle here using that point, and I'll just type 1, 2, comma 1, 2, enter. That gives me a 12 inch by 12 inch rectangle. And I'll just pull this down by 1, 2, enter, 12 inches. And I'll use my selection tool. Spacebar is a shortcut. Triple click, right click, make group. Alright, so I got to move it to the center. So I'll do that in 2 steps. First step is to move it to the midpoint of this edge. So I'll use the move tool, and I'll move it from the midpoint of the little column here to the midpoint of the landing, which is that dot right there, midpoint. Alright, click and release. And now I'll move it in the green direction from anywhere, but I'll move it starting from here. In this case, I'll type in 36 inches, 3, 6, enter. Alright, and that should put it right in the center. So if I use my tape measure tool to click and release here and go to the midpoint, that says 3 feet 6 inches, which is half of 7 feet, so it's in the right spot. Alright, now the last thing is this little core space, this little room in the center of the floor here. So I'll do that now. I will select the roof and then right click hide the roof so it's out of the way, and I'm going to use some guidelines and determine where the footprint of that room is. And according to the floor plan, it's 12 feet in this direction, 12 feet from this edge, and then 4 feet from each side edge. So 48 or 4 apostrophe will give me these intersecting guidelines. Then I'll use a rectangle tool to make a rectangle on the floor, and I will P, shortcut for push pull, click and release, and according to the south elevation it's 8 feet tall, so 8 apostrophe enter. Now I'm going to hollow it out. So to do that, I'm going to select the floor, right click and hide it, and I'll get rid of these guidelines by selecting them and deleting them. Alright, so I'll orbit down so I can see the bottom. And according to the floor plan, the walls are 1 foot thick. So I'm going to use the offset tool, which is right here. F is a shortcut. And I'll click on his face and move my mouse toward the inside here. And I'll just type 1, 2, enter for 12 inches or 1 foot. Alright. And I'm going to say that it's the ceiling of this room is also 1 foot thick. So that means I'm going to pull this up by 8 minus 1, which is 7 feet. So I will use my push pull tool. And let me just select this, push pull, click and release, and go up 7 apostrophe enter. Alright, so I hollowed out that space here. Now there's a door right here, which is, according to the floor plan, 2 feet wide. So I will use a tape measure tool. T is a shortcut, and draw a generated guideline to the midpoint here, which is 3 feet in, right there, that blue dot. And the door is 12 inches to this side of the center, 1, 2, enter, and 12 inches, 1, 2, enter to this side. Alright, you can draw lines here or use the rectangle to, oops, that didn't land properly. Try that again, Control Z. Alright, and then I'll just simply push pull this up flush with the face of the ceiling here. Okay, and I'll heal this surface to make one face, so I will use my selection tool to select this edge and delete key or backspace to delete it. Alright, so there's that little room. So I'll triple click, right click, make group. Alright, and let me delete the guides and unhide all. Display eyeglasses, unhide all. And that is it. So there is the Farnsworth Hut. Give that a try and enjoy.